Hello, my name's Ashley, and today we will be discussing adding texture to your drawings using texture techniques and cross-hatching. Let's get started. Alrighty, so the first thing we're going to talk about is grass and plants. So as we create a texture of grass, we want to kind of keep in mind that grass is not, as some people think, it doesn't just go like this. We want to avoid that whenever possible when it comes to creating vegetation and plants in general. We want to start by kind of remembering that grasses tend to clump together. They might be separate a little bit, but all we're doing is we're just taking our pencil, we're just lightly kind of going in there, and then we might draw a few that kind of come from the same point. So again, some are going to be separate, some of them are going to come from the same exact spot. That's going to help us create this idea of plants, of grass. We could do the same thing. Let's say we want grass all to be the same length. We could do the same thing and still have several come from the same spot. Maybe one gets a little higher. Because grass, even if you cut your grass with a lawnmower, every blade of grass isn't going to be the same length. That gives us a little bit of an idea on how to create grass. Another texture I get asked about a lot is rocks. People say they can't do rocks very well. The thing to remember about rocks is they're not going to be smooth unless they're river rock. We want to kind of create maybe a larger shape for a rock. They're not going to be even. We don't just want to make a big square or whatever. We want to kind of create the idea. We might even go in and add like a secondary pocket of stuff. Kind of give us a little bit more of an idea of rock. We might add another rock in front of this rock to give it the sense, show how big it is. The important thing is you notice this rock starts on a lower line than this one. That helps us achieve that idea. We might add some vegetation that might grow around it, behind it, on it even. Different kind of ideas. It's one way to do rock. Another way is with round river rock. You could do a pile of river rock. It's round. It's going to be a lot smoother. When you create the same idea, creating rocks that kind of sit in front of each other, around each other, that sort of thing. That will help us create a little bit of depth in our drawings, as well as a more realistic feel if we've got rocks sitting on different lines indicating that one is in front of the other. That's super important. Next one we want to talk about is doing clouds. A lot of people want to do outside landscapes. So clouds tend to be, we can kind of start off with kind of a nice bottom, flat bottom, and try to keep them misshapen as well. Clouds are not particularly, can be a little darker on the bottom. They're going up into higher stuff. The important thing is that they're nice and flat and then a little bit fluffier as we get up top. That's going to give us a more realistic feel to our clouds. Other textures that you might be interested in doing include fur or hair. Depending on the type of fur or hair, you'll want to kind of fur, hair, etc. kind of follows the shape of an object that it's on. And it should kind of come from generally the same area. You might have one patch of fur here, another patch that starts down here. Maybe this patch comes in here. That's one way. You could have curly fur or curly hair that's kind of comes in patches like this, with another patch, maybe the other patch goes this way. You kind of just start to build up the idea of that fur, that kind of wavy look. Another texture that can be useful to have is like a wood grain. we're trying to create like logs, or tree branches, that kind of thing we might want to create. And as we do that, what we're going to do is, got my log kind of look here. He's going to have maybe some rings in there. We'll go back to that guy. Kind of take my pencil and kind of create these little lines. Maybe there's a knot right here. Lines. And just kind of go along and create. Create that look. And we can go in and rub it into to kind of fill in some of that color, and then go in and just hit certain areas with a nice dark splotch. Okay, now that we've delved into a little bit of how to create textures, it's time to show another way to add texture to drawings through the use of cross-hatching. So hatching is placing lines together. The closer together I place the lines, the darker an area appears, whereas the farther apart I get them, the lighter that area is going to appear. Cross-hatching is when I go back over those lines with my pencil to create even darker depths. Again, the closer together they are, the darker the area will appear. So we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of that. So we're going to start with this pair right here. Here we go. First things first, I'm going to kind of take a minute to kind of decide where my darkest spots are going to be on this pair based on its light source. Okay, so come down here. It's going to give me an idea of maybe where some of these spots will be. I'm going to draw very lightly. Okay, now here we go. I am going to, because this is a darker area, I am going to swap over to a 4B pencil and use it. Now, in order to create this effectively, you want to use some very sharp pencils. That's going to give you the most effective lines. I'm going to start. Cross-hatching should follow kind of the shape of an object and the shape of around here. I'm not putting them too close together. Down here, I'm going to try to get a little further apart. And then darker again down here where the light doesn't reach as much. So I'm going to have a really dark patch here, which I will switch to a 6B in order to create. But I still want there to be distinct lines. The most important thing when we're cross-hatching is that we don't scribble. We are lifting the pencil in between each stroke. This is a little lighter over here, so I might level that out a little bit. We're going to come back in with our 4B and continue going down. It's a little lighter over here. A patch of reflected light. If you want to know more about reflected light, check out our video on form and shading. And I've just got it in hatched. I'm not doing any cross hatching in this 4B section at least. I'll go back in a little bit with a few here. That's going to help me look a little bit more round and less angular. Right here, that's a little bit lighter, and we want to start blending into that half tone, which is going to be right here. I'm going to go through, this is a 2B now. And along with, you'll notice, you may have noticed, along with the hatching, I'm also switching the darkness of my pencils. That will help as well to create that effect of the cross hatching. The important thing is that we're not rubbing our finger to shade any of this, so any spots that need to be blended, etc., we have to get creative and make those happen with lines instead, which can be very hard. We also don't want to have too many lines or it's going to end up pretty convoluted. Back here, we don't want it to be too light, so we'll probably come back through here. What you're going to end up with as you fix your pictures and your images up is a nice shaded object of whatever it is you're creating. This is just another fun way. There's blending and then there is cross-hatching. Those are two super fun ways to create that form and shadow that helps us make things that look three-dimensional. It's a fun, funky way to do your shading. It's also a very useful way to create that. That's all I have for you today. If you feel like you missed something during the video, be sure to rewind it as many times as you need to in order to grasp all the material. If you enjoyed talking about cross-hatching and texture, make sure that you jump into one of our live studio classes. See you next time.